listener production.
Hello, Sasha Barbagat with you. Welcome to The Briefing. This week, a very public stoush between two very famous rappers has taken a dark turn.
Say, Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs and party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baca got a weird case. Why is he around? Certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. Wop, wop, wop.
That is just part of Kendrick Lamar's track, Not Like Us. So yeah, pretty dark. But rappers dissing each other in their music isn't anything new. So why is this particular fight between Drake and Kendrick Lamar all over the internet? We'll take a deep dive into this in the second half of The Briefing. First though, Antoinette Lattouf is here with the headlines. It is Thursday, the 9th of May.
Hey Sasha, g'day everyone. So for the first time since the outbreak of the conflict between Israel and Hamas, the US has paused a delivery of weapons for its ally Israel. So White House officials have revealed Joe Biden stopped a shipment that included 1,800 90-kilogram bombs and another 1,700 bombs which were smaller because he feared they would be dropped on Rafah.
We have concerns about the fact that there are so many people crowded into such a small area. When you look at the way Israel has conducted its operations in the past and what the impact on the civilian population has been.
Yeah, and we know that impact has been huge. At least 34,000 Palestinians have been killed. So it's important to note that this is a pause. It's not a definite no, even though it does seem to be a shift in rhetoric and actions. Also important to note that this particular transfer of weaponry is separate from a supplemental aid package, which was in the billions, that Israel received that was passed by the US late last month. But it does show that Biden is feeling significant pressure to stop arms deliveries to Israel, and that's coming both from the public and from members of his own party.
Israel has downplayed the move, with one official claiming it was all designed to win votes in the upcoming US presidential election. And Washington has approved more than 100 separate military sales to Israel since its invasion of Gaza. Israel has been the largest cumulative recipient of US foreign aid since its founding, receiving about $300 billion in total economic and military assistance. Antoinette, as well, when I was listening to the US State Secretary spokesperson Matthew Miller, who we heard from just before in that grab, he was also talking about the fact that this doesn't change the US's relationship with Israel. He made that really clear, that he was like, we're still allies, we would still support Israel defending itself like we saw when Iran attacked or launched those strikes. So, yeah, I mean, it's a step, but it's definitely not the end of US support of Israel.
There has been some speculation that this current pause is because the US may be getting concerned about what this will mean in the international court, whether or not they're aiding and abetting genocide. But, US officials have insisted that it's not because of legal concerns, that it's a policy decision, and that it's nothing to do with nervousness about the administration, given Israel is currently before the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court.
Could 2025 be the year we start to see the cost of living crisis ease? Well, that's what Treasurer Jim Chalmers is predicting as he releases his budget sneak peek a week out from the paper being handed down. We are expected to have more disposable income next year, thanks to a combination of rising wages, the Stage 3 tax cuts, as well as easing inflation. Now, the average worker, according to this budget forecast, will have an extra $1,900 in their wallets a year in 2025.
Yeah, but Aussies on unemployment payments are unlikely to see any major change to their financial situation. And that's despite pressure from social justice groups, economists and advocates. The government has dampened expectations about an increase to job seeker payments. Chalmers has been under quite a bit of pressure to make a substantial increase to the fortnightly job seeker unemployment payment, which is currently about $55 a day. What he did say is that there will be additional steps in the budget to adopt some of the recommendations, and that's the recommendations from a committee, an advisory committee that was put together. But he didn't indicate exactly what the government would pursue from those recommendations. Over in the US, adult film actor Stormy Daniels has given her testimony in the witness stand as part of the hush money case against Donald Trump. Daniels spoke about the alleged sexual encounter with Trump and the payment she kept quiet while he ran for president in 2016. She alleged Trump dared her to spank him with a magazine, which she then did, saying he was much more polite after that.
Yes, it was certainly a salacious day in court after the last few days, which kind of got bogged down in accounting stuff and it was getting really, really boring. This definitely ramped it up. And Trump was there and he was watching on as Stormy Daniels gave her testimony. He hung his head low in the courtroom as she described their alleged sexual encounter, which he denies. His lawyers also tried to push for a mistrial midway through her testimony, but were unsuccessful. Hey, also worth noting, so we know Trump is facing a bunch of charges across a number of indictments right across the US. And one is probably the most recent one that people remember, where his Mar-a-Lago estate was raided by the FBI amid claims that he had taken classified documents from the White House and was keeping them. So there's a trial that is supposed to be happening for that. Now, a Florida judge has postponed that indefinitely. It was supposed to start on May 20. But the US District Judge, her name's Eileen Cannon, has not set a date for proceedings to start. Now, why this is significant is because this was one of the ones that was supposed to be happening before the November presidential election, and it's not happening now, and it's unlikely that it'll get up off the ground before that. And so this is where experts are saying, you know, if Trump's found guilty in any of these cases, they do predict it'll have some sort of an impact on his ability to regain the White House. And this one, given that he was taking classified documents, is pretty significant. So that's something else that's happened with Trump overnight. And we so rarely get it, but we are finishing today's headlines with a positive climate story. New analysis has revealed a record-breaking 30% of the world's energy came from renewable sources in 2023. Think tank Ember has published the findings in the Global Electricity Review, further predicting we'll see fossil fuel production ease slightly this year, but that'll only continue to decline from 2026 and beyond.
So for some context, in 2000, renewables made up at least 19% of the global energy mix. So this is a step toward the world reaching that 60% renewable electricity target by 2030. And that target is considered critical to meeting global climate needs and goals. So I know, Sasha, we started off by saying that this is a much-needed good news story, and it is, but 2030, I'm doing the maths, 2030 is only 6 years away, and we need to double renewable sources energies from the current 30% to 60%, which is needed. So I kind of feel like I've taken this down a different route.
I was just trying to finish with something positive. No, I hear you, Antoinette. As much as it is a great story, the fact that we're at record-breaking levels of renewable energy is something that should be celebrated, but you're right, we still need to temper it with the facts. And last year, global levels of planet heating pollution did reach a record high. But the boom in renewables has pushed the electricity sector's carbon intensity. So what that is the amount of carbon pollution produced per unit of electricity. That was pushed to a record low last year. So it feels like we're living in this world of polarities. It's like we're doing great in some sectors, but in others we can see that we know climate change is here. It's not a future thing. It's happening right now. But I suppose it's worth mentioning that we are on track at this stage to that 60% target. Thanks so much, Antoinette, for being here for the headlines. Next up, it is our deep dive into the Kendrick Lamar v. Drake beef. If you've been anywhere on social media this week, there's a pretty good chance you've seen the very public spat between rappers Drake and Kendrick Lamar. A quick breakdown. The two musicians are engaged in an epic rap battle that escalated from fairly pedestrian insults to some dark accusations ranging from cheating to pedophilia. It's a feud that has a long history, but things have really escalated. And amid the beef, one of Drake's security guards was shot and seriously injured this week while standing outside the rapper's house. Police in Toronto, where Drake lives, say it's too early in the investigation to talk about a motive. So why are so many people talking about it? Here to tell us is hip-hop journo and author Simone Amelia Jordan. She's also the former editor of The Source magazine based in New York. Thanks for being here, Simone. Tell us how this feud between Kendrick Lamar and Drake began.
Kendrick and Drake were initially friends. They came up in around 2010 in the past decade, but they were cool in the beginning. They appeared on each other's albums. And then around 2013, another rapper named Big Sean released an album and he had a song called Control. And Kendrick Lamar featured on that song. And on that song, Kendrick called out 11 rappers that were the top rappers at the time, including Drake, basically saying, I'm the king because hip-hop is a competitive sport. Drake didn't come back at him at the time. He then got busy in the following years beefing with other rappers, Meek Mill, Pusha T. And then it wasn't until last year that Drake released a song as part of an album called First Person Shooter. And J. Cole said that there are the top three rappers. He called them the big three, Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole. Again, Kendrick took issue with this. So then earlier this year, Kendrick got on a song called Like That with the rapper Future, the producer Metro Boomin. And Kendrick said, basically, there is no big three, there's just me. Mm-hmm. And that kicked off the maelstrom that we've been experiencing in the past month or so. J. Cole came back with a response to that, but quickly retracted because he said it didn't sit right with his spirit. He didn't feel like this beef was something he wanted to really extend. But then Drake took the bait and went in with a couple of songs. And as we know, Kendrick came back and it's been war since then.
Yeah, so I read one wrote 3 songs, one wrote 2 songs, and released them over the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Like the weekend just passed.
Yes.
So are they writing these tracks as it goes? Like, oh, I just heard that diss track. Now I'm going to quickly sit down and write down the next one and then release that. Or are they already recorded and just waiting to roll out?
Well, Kendrick has basically said numerous times that there's a mole in Drake's camp. Mm-hmm. So Kendrick's being fed this information constantly. And you hear things, it's a small community, so you hear things through the grapevine as well. Drake said that some of the stuff that was fed to Kendrick wasn't real, like the fact that he had a child that he was hiding, but we haven't seen proof that that isn't real yet. So there's a lot of talk going around. I do think stuff is written on the fly, but a lot of it was already kind of in the stash, tucked in. These guys spend inordinate amount of time in the studio recording music, so they have things ready to go. And like I said, I think they've got little rats in their camps feeding them information all the time.
So
you look very confused.
I am confused about why they are feuding, because one said they were the best and the other one said, nah, I'm the best.
How is that confusing to you?
But the reason it's confusing to me is that it's primary school petty shit. Why are they beefing over something so nothing?
This is not nothing, though. I have to push back on that. This is the crown of hip-hop. This is what hip-hop, the foundation of hip-hop is battle. The foundation is competition, right? And so saying that you're the king of hip-hop, there carries some weight with it. There's been decades of artists that will say they've got the crown, that they're the king of New York, king of regions. I'm the king of New York. I'm the king of here. I'm the king of the West Coast. It's bravado. It's very masculine. The women rappers dance around it, but they don't really fight it out like the dudes do, like in life in general. Yeah, bragging rights in hip hop is very important. So I get what you're saying about the pettiness in terms of there are much bigger issues in the world right now that we could be focusing on, but also this is kind of it's part of hip hop's DNA.
Yeah,
and Drake has always been seen, whether the outsider understood this or not, as an outsider himself to kind of the core, to hip-hop's elite, to the founders of it. And so when you add the fact that he is from another country and people have kind of lambasted him for being a culture vulture in terms of picking up Afrobeats or picking up dancehall and all these genres and kind of cruising through a lot of things and not giving the relevant props or credit to the founders, it's left him kind of in the position that he's in now.
Thank you for explaining that. It makes sense.
I hope that made sense.
It does. It makes sense I think it's just because it's not something that most people are involved in, so they might look at it from afar and go, what are they talking about?
100%. What are these grown men doing?
Yeah.
Back and forth bickering at each other. But battle rap is obvious. It's a bastion of hip hop, and I encourage anyone to go look at like the battle rap greats, which Kendrick and Drake are not battle rappers, but it is like a crucial component of the genre.
I want to ask then about some of the lyrics that Kendrick has written about Drake, because some of them are pretty full on, including one accusation that he's a pedophile.
Yes.
Have we ever said, and I mean, that's legal implications. That's not nothing. That's not I'm the best, not you.
Not to mention the artwork of one of the most recent track that had, it was basically simulating that Drake's house had a bunch of child predators living in it. That was the actual artwork.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting very serious.
Yeah. So that's not a joke, and that's not petty. That's serious.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess again from that outsider's perspective, is there any reason for law enforcement to get involved, or is there like any suggestion that could be looked at, because they're pretty serious allegations?
Yeah, they are serious allegations. I mean, I can't speak on whether law enforcement will get involved. I guess we'll wait and see off the back of those allegations, which are very serious. What I will say is in a rap battle, there are two camps, I feel like, out of the fans. Some people think it should be all gloves off. You should be able, if you're going to engage with each other in this environment, you are going to get all the dirt that you can find on that person and start slinging mud. That's the rules of engagement. There are no rules of engagement. You're going to go for the jugular because you want to win the battle. But then there's the other camp, which is obviously kind of maybe the more rational camp, that says certain things are off limits. Children, for one thing, when you're talking about someone's child, and women especially are always the fodder of these battles, especially black women. Kendrick's fiance, for example, other women that Kendrick was saying, young girls like Millie Bobby Brown, whose name got brought up. So that's obviously very distasteful as well. But rap itself has always been kind of gladiatorial, I guess. But I think in terms of these accusations that could actually be a crime, we'll have to wait and see whether something comes out of it. Drake's denied it, obviously. So we'll see. I'm sure this isn't the end of what we're going to hear from both of them.
Yeah. Let's talk about defamation then, because, again, those comments made could be considered defamatory in a court of law. Now, from what I understand of the industry and the culture around it is that you don't rat, you don't go to the police, you don't stick your hand up in that way, you do it in the songs, right?
Absolutely.
But have we seen rappers sued in the past over their lyrics? Like, could that happen in this instance?
There's been mention of, there's in New York City, there's hip hop police squads, right, that are actually formed similar to the Middle Eastern task force that was here in Australia to combat quote unquote Middle Eastern Australian crimes. There was a task force set up in New York called the Hip Hop Police that literally followed rappers because of the stuff they were saying, trying to catch them out on whether it was all bravado or whether it was actually real. Because some of the rappers, Sasha, are they do come from the streets and legitimately come from the streets, but then a lot of rappers are just artists and they may have a connection to the streets. They're the poets. They are recording what's going on, but they don't have that lived experience themselves. So I say all that to say there hasn't been like a watermark case in terms of lyrics. I mean, there have been little cases over the years where people have tried to infuse, well, such and such rapper said this. And it has come into play if that rapper is in court for a serious crime. That's happened, I think, a handful of times. But for the most part, these allegations usually stay on wax, as we say, until I guess there is, irrefutable proof that something's going on and that law enforcement has to take it further.
What about publicity? How much of this is just each side going, oh, let's keep this going so that we can keep our names in the headlines?
It benefits the rappers. It benefits like Leo Cohen, the owner of YouTube, the CEO of YouTube, because every time they're uploading a new track, it goes to YouTube first. The streams are ridiculous. It's benefiting creators because this morning I just read that Kendrick Lamar has opened up the copyrights to all of his diss tracks to the reaction community, which makes me laugh, that phrase, the reaction community, the people that film reaction videos.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So he's just taken the copyright off all of the diss tracks so the reaction community can make money off their reaction videos, which is giving like an incredible income stream because everyone is like so invested in this beef right now. To these young people, right? Which is kind of brilliant in itself that they get to make a little bit of money out of the culture that they love, that they're dissecting. So, look, beef is good for business, and let's hope that we've learned from the horrors of the past with Biggie and Tupac, and you know they lost their lives over East Coast, West Coast rap beef. We pray that these guys have learned and they just keep it all in the music.
All right, so with all that said then, is the music actually any good? Is it worth listening to?
Oh, look, I feel like, and I'm not being biased, as a rap fan, Kendrick's side in particular is sensational. Having spoken to him myself over 10 years ago about his dedication to the craft, how he is so committed to the art of rap, the way he shifts tone, his cadence. He's a student of black music throughout the decades, so his jazz inflections, his knowledge of the history of things, just the complete seriousness that he takes going into quote-unquote war on wax is very, very impressive. The content has been vulgar and definitely not for children. As we've said, the subject matter that they're discussing is not for the faint-hearted, but as an actual battle of lyrics, I mean, Drake's a solid rapper. He always has been, but Kendrick is really in a league of his own in many ways.
Well, Simone, it's been a fascinating chat. I've learnt a lot. Thank you so much for joining us on The Briefing.
Very, very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's briefing. That is all for this episode. A reminder, we put out full eps of our weekend briefing chats on YouTube. Search Listener Newsroom to see them. You can also catch up with our other video content on TikTok at Listener Newsroom and on Instagram, which is at The Briefing Podcast. And if you liked this ep, why not share it with someone you think might enjoy it too? I'm Sasha Barbagat. See you next time.
Listener.